everybody, welcome back to Travel Talk. I'm Marissa, that's Grant, and this is our second episode.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
episode 2 already, yeah.
So we thought we'd go for not necessarily a lighter topic, but like a more fun topic, to a lighter,
Yeah, we don't want to complain.
More positive.
We don't want to last week was fun, but we don't want to always...
We do like to complain.
We don't want to complain every week, right?
Yeah, no.
Mix it up between some more positive stuff and more
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll be back to complaining about something in a future.
Knowing us,
episode.
Immediately. So we thought we'd use this episode and talk about, one, how the heck do we travel so much? And two, what does that planning process look like? And how is it different because we do vlog?
Yeah. So we'll give a little bit of behind the scenes to that sort of world of how we go about planning around being a travel vloggers, but also how we sort of manage to do it.
Yeah, and also for planning, who owns what part of planning.
We kind of split it up a little bit.
Yeah, we have different roles.
Yeah.
So we're just going to dive in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Also, this podcast brought to you, not officially, not actually. If they want to sponsor us, that would be rad. But Highland Brewing Wishing Star Cold IPA, which matches our lighting beautifully. Well done, Grant.
It does. And once again, I just have my classic Costco brand hard seltzer.
I mean, if Costco wants to sponsor us, I'm not going to be mad about it. I love Costco.
But yeah, so let's just dive in. Well,
yeah.
So I guess sort of the first thing I guess we'll talk about is how
do we do this so much?
How we travel so much.
Yeah.
And I feel like we started sort of heavily traveling. I don't know if that's the right word.
That's the right word.
I would say so. It's not
Flynn.
2 years ago,
Sorry.
kind of, right?
Yeah.
And because we met. Spoiler, we've got a video on this way back when we first started doing this channel explaining the whole story. But we met while traveling. So traveling is a big part of our lives and a part of how we met and sort of what we want. A reason why we kind of
bonded.
Yeah. Because we knew we had this shared interest.
And I think it was in when we first got together and first got married, we were so broke.
Yeah. So we kind of couldn't travel for multiple years, or not.
Between that and visa stuff, but it was we spent years setting up. It was always the thing we were gonna do. We knew that. And so it was years of getting the pieces in place so that when the time was right, we could as much as possible.
When the time was right, and then a global pandemic hit. So it was delayed even more. But once all that sort of, got better, we started traveling again. Yeah. And we needed to make it, we had to make it a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. We prioritized it.
And that's
over almost everything else.
And that's I think the biggest if you take one thing away from this, how we travel so much, is that we prioritize travel as our main sort of focus in life right now. Yeah. We don't have kids.
We don't visit family.
Yeah, we only use sort of time off for longer international trips.
Yeah. And I think we need to talk about time off a little bit, because I think other than the financial piece.
Right. We can start. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Starting off, we were very broke. We've gotten to a place we are incredibly privileged. We are very, very lucky we get to do that. I just kind of want to acknowledge that. We know this is not accessible to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, I think the other piece is people are how are you doing that?
How do you get so much time off?
Yeah. So when we started traveling, we were both working from home, which makes it somewhat easier. And I've been lucky for about 10 years. I've worked for a company that has an open PTO policy. I don't have a set number of days. I can take pretty much as I want. I have not found the upper limits of that yet.
Yeah, and when we first started traveling, I was working for a company that had dedicated PTO. I think I had just the amount of time I was there, by the time we were traveling, I think I maybe had 3 weeks, roughly.
Yeah.
Like 14 days or something at one
Yeah.
point. So a lot of our initial trips were very specifically timed to always rotate around at the very least weekends.
And
so
holiday
like,
weekends got
but
bonus points.
holidays in particular were how we got so many trips around. So like, for example, you have like a holiday Monday or something.
Yeah.
You leave like on a Friday night and then come back on like a Sunday, like the following Sunday night, and you've only have to use 4 PTO days.
Right.
But we would have got, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 9 days off.
Yeah.
And only having to take 4. It was all very tightly scheduled around that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We would travel over Thanksgiving. We would, travel
Memorial
over
Day,
or like
Labor
4th of July or whatever.
Depending on like when those days fell.
And we always travel internationally, so it didn't really impact it too much, like making it busier or things like that, because we weren't domestically traveling. It always made it easy to do that.
Yeah.
Now we're a little more privileged, whereas I am doing this full time.
Yeah.
So I don't have a limited amount of PTO anymore, and you have a flexible PTO. So yeah, we're lucky that the schedule is pretty open for us to go when we want now.
Yeah.
And say that we still don't like. It's still. We're not always traveling. We're not full-time travelers.
Honestly, I feel it, other than the fact that, like, at some point my work would probably put their foot down, the other reason we don't travel any more than we do is we have
animals.
We have 2 dogs and a cat.
Yeah.
And they kind of need us here.
Yeah.
So.
And they kind of don't, like, we don't, I think the most we've kind of taken is maybe 9 days.
And that's really pushing it
and
for
that's,
them.
so we generally try to keep it around a week to 9, like 7 to 9 days.
Yeah.
But that's, and then the other side of the timing, we might as well just stick on this like timing part, right? Is now that we're doing a travel vlog, a lot of our trips are dependent on the planning of the videos. So like we don't necessarily plan out all of like the topics or anything like that for the videos, but we generally just estimate each day of our vacation is going to be a video.
Yeah.
And we release these vlogs weekly. So we generally will get about 2.5 months out of one trip worth of videos. So I generally will schedule these trips to coincide with that. So every 2.5 to 3 months.
Yeah.
Right?
And that was kind of the interesting thing about when not to like bring the party down, but like when I had my seizure, that was going to be we were going to do a travel day vlog. It was something we were like, we haven't really done this much. We're going to try and do it this trip and see how that goes. And then of course I had a seizure, and then that threw that out of whack.
Yeah, but
we made it up.
So yeah, so we obviously we'll have to be flexible sometimes, where there might be a week or two, like there might be some gaps. Like for example, like where the most recent series before this Norway one, we were in Copenhagen, but that was the longest gap we had taken between Copenhagen and Norway. And we had to do like videos every second week, and like it was a lot slower paced, and we're like, well, we probably try to keep them. But anyway, that's the logistics of video planning. But
No, finish your thought. Or did I ruin it?
No, I've forgotten. No.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was going to say the other piece of like how we travel so much is we kind of don't spend money on anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, because like a lot of people will say, like, how do you afford to we so much?
We have one car.
Yeah. Which is
paid off.
We don't really have, aside from like our mortgage on a house, which is a very modest house, so it's not crazy. Yep. We live very much within our means. So yeah, we have one car that we barely use. Yeah. We don't have we have very modest like cell phones and like the plans for our.
We are very lucky. We do have our house, but it's tiny. There's a reason you only see this room.
We do not invest any money in our house.
No, we
aside
don't.
from like
We're
we did
bad
like
homeowners.
a back deck and like a fence. That's
And
about
that was
all the
it.
improvements
Yeah.
we did.
Like,
have,
we need a new AC. Our AC is like 20 years old and like hanging on for dear life. And
So-
we're like, but that's a trip.
yeah, we prioritize not only our time but our like finances on travel. Yeah, we even go as far. We don't even buy like essentially like gifts and stuff.
We don't do gifts.
Like we don't really celebrate like our birthdays and like holidays and stuff because we got to a point where we were like, let's just like go on a trip or like put that money towards this trip, which was like roughly timed near the thing. Like we always sort of are on a trip or something near one of our birthdays or like near Christmas or whatever it is. And that's just this decision we made was like we'd rather invest our money in traveling.
We also just get very stressed buying gifts. It's not something we enjoy.
Yeah, we didn't. We quickly discovered that it was no benefit to either of us.
Yeah. And like, so this coming up is our 10-year wedding anniversary. Hey.
Yeah.
And so we're going back to Munich where we met, and like we're not doing gifts.
Yeah.
But we're going back to where we met, which is
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we're celebrating.
And that's how like we find that more special and more like memorable and stuff. So
yeah,
that's sort of how we do that part, right? Is that all around that sort of? Is there anything else we should touch on there, like in terms of how we sort of
how we do this so much? No, I think that kind of covers it.
Yeah, and obviously now the only other thing is like like obviously we make these videos now, so that gives us more incentive sometimes to do certain things or plan some stuff, right?
Or do things that are slightly outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah, and I think that leads into sort of the next part of how we plan our trips is we don't necessarily plan because it will be like a good video.
No.
We plan trips purely for what we want to do. And we don't let the vlog like dictate
what we're going to do.
What we do. No. Like, if something's like, oh, that mightn't be all that interesting for people to watch, we're like, whatever.
Whatever.
Someone will like it. Yeah. Someone will probably watch it.
And part of it is, like, the vlog is, like, for us.
Yeah.
Like, if other people watch it and find it fun or interesting or whatever, like, that's, like, honestly the icing for us. Like,
because we'll watch back our series.
Yeah, especially, like, our most recent trip in Norway, I'm finding I don't remember because of the seizure. And so, like, I'm getting to, like, watch these videos, and if we didn't have that, I would essentially not have a lot of memory of this trip, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember Flom at all.
Yeah. So to get that out of the way, we do our trips because that's where we want to go. So, and we just film, like, the camera just comes along with us, right? But there is some planning that sort of revolves around, not necessarily the vlog, but it is sort of like we do plan very far in advance because of the vlog in particular.
We plan about a year in advance at this point.
I like doing that personally anyway, but it's now better to do it just for planning purposes. Like I said before, it's kind of like I spaced them out.
Yeah, and it's kind of escalated over time because originally it was like you wanted to have like 2 trips booked at any given time, and then 2 became 3, became 4, became an entire year.
At the very beginning it was like, I have to have something booked by the time we get back from the other one, right?
Yeah.
At the very least.
It's just...
And now it's spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
But it's now turned into, we'll...
Pretty soon Grant's going to have like the next decade of our lives, like...
Yeah, unless they unfortunately don't let you plan that far in advance with like booking things.
If you would, you could.
If I would, I could. Yeah, but yeah, so we've gotten to a sort of a rotation of not planning out the calendar year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've gotten to a sort of a place now where we'll kind of set aside time for a planning next year's like trips.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean plan the whole thing, but it's like pick the locations.
Kind of sketch it out.
And figure out roughly the month we're going to do them.
And so what's really become fun is we'll do like planning days, and we'll kind of be like, all right, on Sunday, we're going to do a planning day. And so we take our laptops and our notebooks and we go to the bar. We have lovely friends who have a bar, and we just kind of sit there and
Yeah.
We'll spend a day planning.
Yeah, and that will either be like a one that is a more, hey, where do we want to go? Like let's list the next places on our kind of like travel bucket list kind of thing, or what makes sense to do next year. There are some places like, we hold off, we'll be like, that's probably not like roughly this year. Let's wait maybe to do that one, or what makes sense in the next year to do. And so, it's like a balancing act sometimes.
Yeah, so essentially we have kind of like our ultimate bucket list of like, these are the ultimate hotels, destinations, places we want to go. And those are kind of like our big ticket items.
Yeah.
And so every year we try and do one of those, and it's where we're going to kind of dump all of our points. Because that's like a whole other side of this that we haven't even got into, is how much of this is also dependent on hotel points, which that's a whole thing that Grant...
Yeah, we'll probably just do an entire episode on that once, but
that might not even...
future.
There's nothing I can contribute.
But as reference point, in the last couple of years, the first time we sort of did this was the Maldives, right? And Maldives was like a real high bucket list item, super expensive. So like I figured out how to do miles and points and all this stuff, and we figured out that was one we were able to do because we could stay at one of these fancy hotels. And then the next year we did South Africa, we did safari.
Which was this year. Yeah.
That was this year. And then next year we're planning to do like Singapore. And that's going to be sort of the big one we dump points in.
Yeah.
And that sort of gives us like a year to build up points in whatever hotel chain or whatever. It's generally like Marriott, but we've done it with a few others.
Yeah.
Where we'll almost every other trip we'll either be using random like Amex we've got points, like Amex Platinum that gives us like a certain amount of cash back on certain hotel places, and we'll do random stuff, but some trips will purely be, this is building points for the big trip. And that's sort of how we do, like, we'll plan this one big one first, right? And that will be like, okay, when is that? What is the ideal time to go there? Or when when is it cheaper, or when is it like whatever that is, and we'll pick like that one and then fill in the other.
So the rest of the calendar then kind of depends on, when are we doing that big trip, where is it. I think one of the things we found last year, we did the Maldives and Japan back to back, and that was 2 very long haul flights in a row. Like, granted, there were several months in between, but we just found that was like a little too much.
Yeah.
So now we're like, okay, we only want to do, like, if we're going to go to like Asia or
maybe
Africa,
the next trip is like Europe.
There needs to be like a Europe in between. So it's like not 2 super long haul flights back to back.
Yeah. And for us, being on the East Coast of the U.S., going to Europe.
That's a good point.
Going to Europe
It's
is
like
only about 6 to 8 hours, depending on where we go, which for us now is just like whatever.
It's like nothing.
That's pretty easy. But then compared to like going to Asia or like the Middle East or something, that can be like 16, 18, 20, 24 hours.
I think coming home from South Africa was solid 32 hours, and that was just brutal.
Because it was like multiple stops and stuff like that. So it's like, factoring in like these kind of lengthy travel like times mixed in with easier trips, right? And then sometimes we also even do like this is going to be a real busy non-stop trip like Japan, right?
Yeah, so we want to do something a little easier either before or after.
So maybe the next one after that we go to like a island, like a resort or something, or we go to a place like Norway that was more laid back and relaxing, more so than go. So we try and balance it pretty evenly, and also, and some of it does come down to like the expense of the places we're going.
That's
like
true.
We couldn't do some of these super long ones for all like 4 trips or whatever we do each year. Sometimes we need to do a cheaper one, which is like you going to somewhere in Europe or whatever.
Yeah, although
it's
honestly,
not as far.
Doing back-to-back Scandinavia has not been the cheapest.
That has not been the cheapest. Yeah, that's been that was a bit of sticker shock when we got there. But yeah, there's a lot of balancing act sort of there, but generally, we'll pick one of these things. We'll have all the stuff down, and then just generally as they approach, or as we've when on other ones, I'll then be like, okay, now it's time to start booking the stuff at the next place or whatever.
So he's kind of always like, now we've got next year sketched out. So you're kind of already looking, especially for Singapore, since we've unveiled that's one of the things we're doing.
Yeah. That's one where
there's a certain very specific time we want to go for a very specific event.
Mm-hmm.
And so it all kind of hinges on being able to book that event, hotels and flights for that event.
So if we can't go to the event, then we might not even go there. But it's like, we'll see. But it's, there's certain things that we might have to book much further in advance. Or sometimes it's like, even with the using like the points and stuff.
Yeah.
We've sometimes booked, like, I think the Maldives we booked 12 months out, I think.
Yeah, we did book that 12
And
months
like
out.
South Africa was pretty far in advance too.
Yeah, South Africa was like 10 months.
Yeah, so like sometimes it's like, oh, to get the value out of using these points or whatever, we'll book something. But we'll often do that and then be like, well, we've got like a year. I don't need to book the flights yet, or I don't need to book this yet. And sometimes it will just be booking
and you'll just
a
start
piece.
Watching.
It'll be like booking a piece of it. Like we have a trip in January that I booked the flights for, but that's it.
Yeah.
Like I haven't booked anything else yet. And like so, but we've everything. Like we've got one more trip. The next sort of series we're going to Germany, as we said. Yeah. And that's like that's all booked. Like that was been booked for a while.
And so essentially, like we find like whatever thing is, we lock in what we can as soon as we can, and then Grant will kind of watch for either like hotel prices, flight prices, like whatever the thing is, start booking that, and then a couple weeks, maybe like about a month before the trip, we will do another planning day for that trip, and that's actually when we figure out, okay, we're going to this place. What are we doing? What the heck are we actually doing when we're there? Obviously, if it's something like South Africa, we didn't need to do that because it's all inclusive. We know what we're doing. We're going on safaris every day.
Some places we need to figure out.
But if we're doing like for like Norway, Copenhagen, England, Wales, like those kinds of trips. Yeah. We actually need to figure out what we're doing.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like, so that's when we'll actually sit down and be like, where are we going to eat? Like, where are we going to, like, what things do we actually want to do and see when we're there?
And that's, and how we generally split it is, I'll take care of flights, hotels,
cars,
like transportation.
Yeah,
that's the general thing.
Transportation is a good way of summing up because
like cars, trains, whatever it is.
Yeah,
they're
all
the things.
Logistics.
The logistics stuff I'll take care of. I like doing all that. I love planning that stuff.
Yeah,
like,
you do. You're a nerd.
It's like
if it was left to me, we would know.
Yeah, I just love, like, that's almost just as fun for me sometimes, booking that stuff and looking at hotels and seeing, like, the best, like, points, like, the amount of points I can spend on that and, like, where they are and figuring out, is it close to a train station so we can get there from the airport and, like, all that kind of stuff.
And he'll tell me all of this. Like, he will walk me through, okay, I'm thinking this and blah, 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 blah. I listen, I nod, but I trust you so implicitly that I'm like, yep, sounds great, Grant.
Yeah.
And then we get there and I'm like, wait,
and we get there kind of close. And then when we're like leading up in the few weeks, like ahead of it, I'll be like, can you just like pick some restaurants or,
so
breweries or whatever.
Yeah, I'm kind of in charge of like looking out. So once we know where in the city we're staying, looking at like what restaurants are nearby or like what restaurants do we want to go to in the city? Are there breweries or bars or things like that we want to go to? Yeah. I get to plan all the fun stuff. And then the other thing I'm kind of responsible for is making sure that our pets our dogs are booked in for boarding. And then I have alerted our cat sitter, shout out to Sarah, which I'm so miserably bad at that we actually just shared our Google Calendar with her because I kept forgetting to tell her.
Yeah. And then the thing we generally share is we'll generally share like if we book kind of like tours or like excursion-y kind of things.
Yeah, we kind of share booking excursions.
Yeah, like one tip kind of with that we'll often do, because it's easy to cancel if you have to, is we'll use like Viator is one of our favorites.
Viator.
One main reason why is
the affiliate link.
Yeah, we have an affiliate link below. So if you click that and book any tour on there, we'll get like a little bit of a little like commission, I think. But we particularly like it because it stacks with Rakuten, which is like a traditionally cashback site, but you can link it with your Amex Platinum to get points. So like they'll often have like specials where it's like 10 times points or something. Then we can book like a tour that costs like $100 and earn like thousands of points. So that's why we often book stuff at certain times.
And like some of the coolest stuff we've gotten to do, we booked through.
Like we saw it, like we had a dinner with a geisha in Kyoto.
Which was, for me, if you've not seen that video, oh my goodness.
That's like one of the coolest things we've ever done.
And that was like a lifetime ultimate bucket list. Like, so bucket list, I never thought I would get to do that. I'm like tearing up talking about it. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's a good way to like, we've found sometimes to be like, oh, that's a cool thing we could do on this day. Book a tour, whatever it is, a walking tour or a, like even sometimes you can just get tickets to attractions through them too, which we've done. But Viator is really good where you can cancel these 24 hours before. So if you change your mind.
Worked out well because a bunch of the stuff we had planned
we had to cancel.
For Norway, we had to cancel because of weather and or my seizure.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
And you can cancel, you just get like all the money back, which is great. So it's like, it's a sort of a no risk way to book activities.
Yeah.
Which is good.
And so kind of backing out of that a little bit when we're talking about planning the calendar for the year, planning trips, we also try, like we have our big bucket list thing. And then when it comes to the other 3 or 4 trips we're going to do, we try and do like a blend of, obviously like it's all things we want to do. Like we will never go somewhere we don't want to, what is somewhere we wouldn't want to, I don't know. Anyways, that could get dark real quick. But we try and kind of do a blend of things that are like currently popular or trendy with, we really like, I think me more so than you, like kind of off the beaten path, like less popular things. And I think we try and blend those a bit into the calendar as well, so that we have either like or popular places at unpopular times. We like to do that too.
Oh yeah.
So like we went to Croatia in winter, which I highly recommend. If
we do like going to most places in like the off seasons.
Yeah, we like off seasons.
It's an interesting way to experience a place
and experience things. Yeah.
Sometimes you get very bad weather in the Maldives, which was unfortunate side effect.
Yeah, but sometimes you get to walk the walls of Dubrovnik and no one's there.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
We've had some really great experiences in off seasons in general. Yeah. So we do like to mix it up sometimes, to doing like, as I said at the beginning, it's kind of the balance. We balance a lot of things out where if a trip was very touristy place, very popular place, we then have the urge to be like, let's go somewhere kind of weird or in the off season that's not as popular because like we're vloggers, but like we're fairly introverted. Yeah. Like very introverted. And we like places better when they're quiet.
It's not just an introversion thing. Crowds tend to give me panic attacks.
Yeah.
So again, that's a balance of it too, is like, I don't want to go somewhere, especially if it's hot out. Hot and crowded is like a recipe for a Marisa meltdown. So we try to balance that in too.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of this that we haven't talked about is we live in North Carolina. North Carolina summers are, we joke that it is hell's front porch. It's just 100 degrees and 1,000,000,000% humidity from like mid-May through like September.
Yeah, not even, like it's October now when we're recording this, and it's still almost in the 80 Fahrenheit. Yeah.
So we also try and have to balance where we're going to go in the summer. We also don't want to go somewhere super hot because we do want to try and get a break from the absolutely oppressive heat of North Carolina summers. So that's why we've done a lot of Scandinavia this year.
Yeah.
It's just trying to get a break.
Yeah, we're going to places that are somewhat cooler while it's hot here.
Because even if it's 75 there, honestly, that feels cool.
Yeah, and we don't have a super harsh winter here, so if we have to be here in like the real like thick of it, it's not terrible.
Yeah, and like honestly, it's kind of nice to go like if we go to Europe in winter it's kind of nice because we don't get real winter here. So if it's like cold and snowy, we're like, it's fine for a few days. Just bring the big jackets.
Yeah.
One of the other things, we were talking about balance, like we try and balance different elements. And I think one of the things we discovered, so we talked about like, long haul flights versus like shorter flights to Europe. I think one of the other things we discovered, so the first time we did a road trip this year. And it's going to take you about 2 years to recover from that.
Yeah.
So like, I loved doing that personally, but Grant had to do all the driving.
But
so
you
I
didn't
think.
drive, so.
Yeah, well, I can't drive on the other side. I can barely drive on the right side of the road. Don't make me try and go on the other side. That would not have ended well.
I perpetually drive on the wrong side of the road, so.
Well, whatever. I can't drive anymore anyways, so. So I think that's like a thing. Another element we found we need to balance is if road trippy things aren't something we can do super often.
Yeah.
Because only you can drive.
Yeah,
so.
and I think sometimes too we've balanced the like multiple destinations in a trip kind of thing where sometimes we've had like the road trip, for example, new place like
intense.
every day.
That was intense.
Super tiring. Or like, Tokyo, we went to like Kyoto and Tokyo and back, and like sometimes we'll go to multiple places, but balancing how long we're in each place, how long we should be there to get like a decent feel for it, versus we want to make sure we get the most out of going all the way there, right? So sometimes we'll do those, and then sometimes it'll be like, we're just going to this one place, this one city, or this one resort or whatever. Yeah. And that's all we're going to do. Yeah. Like, and not travel too much while we're there. Yeah. Right?
And like, so for our Germany trip that's coming up, like we're going to be doing quite a bit of moving around.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're going to like 3 different.
We're going to 3 cities.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a lot of moving, which is fun because we didn't do too much in Norway. And like, there was a little bit of travel, but not like super stressful stuff or whatever. So. But no, I think that's kind of, is that everything?
It might be.
Like, there's a lot to talk about here, but it's like, I think we covered at least most of the stuff. I'm sure we'll probably think of stuff in the future.
I feel like we're going to wrap recording this, and we're both going to be like, ugh, we should talk about like one thing.
Yeah, but, like, that's how that's sort of the rundown of how we do how we do this.
I think the key thing is, like, balancing the elements of travel, and then also, like, division of labor. Yeah. Which you do 90% of the labor.
Yeah. But that's,
But you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then I do the parts that I enjoy and I'm good at.
Yeah.
Because we both know if I was left to, like, book flights and stuff, I would have us going to, like, London, Ohio or something like that.
But yeah, so it's like on the logistics side, that's how we do that. But I think reiterating what we said at the beginning too of, this is something you really need to prioritize if you want to travel like this. It's not something you can sort of do without having a strong focus on it. Yeah. Like monetarily, like time-wise, like it needs to be something that you really want to do. And if you want to make sure you get the most out of sort of the time, you have to, that needs to be the thing that you're doing.
It needs to be the thing that you do, yeah.
Like it's, if you have other passions that take up either a lot of your budget or your time, it might not be as easy to go on multiple big trips like this every year, right? We
don't have kids. That makes it a lot easier.
It does. But I think that's it for today's episode. Yeah. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked this, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can see our future episodes every week. But also make sure if you came here for the first time, we do a weekly travel vlog every Friday. So make sure, once again, make sure you are subscribed so you can get those weekly vlogs of all our travels.
As of when we post this, we're in the middle of our Norway series, which I'm very excited to see because I don't remember that trip.
But thanks so much for watching, listening, and we'll catch you next week.